Hey, it's good to hear that music of your life as everybody kind of taps their foot to our theme song that we have every week for Helping Seniors of Brevard. I'm John Harper, and let's get things underway as we introduce the Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard and the host of the show. Here's Kerry Fink.
Hey, thank you, John Harper. And what a great Wednesday. Thank you for joining us right here on 90.3 FM WEJF. And welcome to those of you who might be listening online at wejf.net. And also to those of you who catch this as a podcast, because we always make sure everything that we do out there makes it, first of all, we put it on our website, helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. We also put it on our Facebook page, which is Helping Seniors of Brevard. We put it on our YouTube page, which is Helping Seniors of Brevard. And then we also put it out in the podcast world, so you can find it wherever you get good podcasts. So that's anything from Spotify to iHeartRadio to Apple iTunes to Hey Alexa, play me Helping Seniors Radio. And what we find is that people literally come back and look up these programs from time to time. Not only as they come out, but maybe they're running into a certain thing and then they're, maybe using a search engine to try to find, like, I need to know something about, something like we're going to talk about today, which is early detection and early cure. And we're going to talk about that in a minute with our special guest. Let me go ahead and welcome him to the radio. And then we're going to stop for just half a second and thank everybody who made the 2023 Helping Seniors Car Raffle just an incredible success. And really helps us in helping seniors go forward. So our special guest today, a guy who has really, really been a friend of the Helping Seniors going all the way back when Joe Steckler was putting together actually the Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation and getting those Joe's Clubs built. Joe tried to retire from that, didn't work. So he started Helping Seniors of Brevard. And Dr. Lee Sheldon, noted area periodontist of Solid Bite fame, right there on Sarno Road. Now the practice has grown to the place that his son, Dr. Matt Sheldon, and also another expert periodontist, Dr. Sheldon Furtado, are all there. And Dr. Sheldon, all these years later, you're still all about helping seniors. Thank you.
I'm still there helping seniors and helping patients every once in a while too, Kerry. Good to talk with you. And yeah, I think the discussion and talking about the success of last Saturday's event is certainly the star of the show, not me today.
Yeah, well, I was telling you that we were really, I have to say this, the event has grown every year. I have often promoted it, saying that it's become like the automotive night that people look forward to every fall. And this year, last year was yet another record in terms of attendance for us. And this year, it just blew everything off the top. The attendance, they were telling us, is between 4,000 and 6,000. They literally lost count. And people were parking. I literally heard stories of people parking at the Walmart down at the corner of Minton and Sarno so that they could walk over there and skip the traffic and actually get into the museum. So we are going to look at some things that maybe will make that part of parking smoother. But for those people that came out, first of all, to everybody who got a raffle ticket or in some way helped make this go, a very sincere thank you. Because, Dr. Sheldon, you've been around this nonprofit work for a long time. And also John Harper, who is he's behind the microphone, but he's also another guy just like you that has been with Joe since the absolute get-go. In fact, John is technically vice president of our organization. And I think a lot of the work that he did behind the scenes really helped make this thing go big. Really, what they say when you go to the fast food place and you say, well, do you want to go big? Well, this one went big. And it was just a tremendous night. And as you know, it's very difficult to raise money for a nonprofit. And so Joe and his buddy, AJ Hires, years ago came up with this idea of a car raffle as a fun way to get people involved. So at least they feel like, well, I'm donating, but it might come back to me. And so it does come back to you. In fact, it came back to a lady named Diane Pilak, who was our winner. So Mark gave her a call from the stage. She was not in the building at that moment, but Mark but Mark tried to call Diane Pelak and left a voicemail for her. And we're going to let you know as soon as we hear from Diane as to which car she's going to pick, because Dr. Sheldon, if you remember, they say it's the last year for the Dodge Challenger and the Chevrolet Camaro, which were two of the choices, but also there was a Mazda Miata, a Kia Sportage, and a Mitsubishi Outlander in the race. So it's going to be fun to see what they win. But, Dr. Sheldon, you've been around fundraisers and things for that help our community. You do it actually for a lot of different charities, not just helping seniors, but we're so grateful. But I mean, it's a difficult thing to do. So it's wonderful when it turns out well. People respond, they give of their, they not only do they give their money, but we had so many people who volunteered to help us try to make it a pleasant evening. And it was really just amazing, Dr. Sheldon.
I think it speaks well of the charity of helping seniors of Brevard. Certainly speaks well of you and John, tremendous effort that you made in order to be able to get this publicized. And I think, rightly, it talks about Joe. I mean, here's Joe, and Joe is, you know how old he is. And Joe is pushing this along in order to be able to make sure that that the community and the seniors are covered and that they're taken care of. This wouldn't have started without Joe. Then this wouldn't continue without, I shouldn't say it wouldn't continue without Joe, because now you and, I'll include myself in it a little bit. But, we've created a network of people and all cohesive and all working in the same direction in order to be able to get something done. And so now add to it all of the other, the AJ hires, the Mark Pylock, to create an event and a prize that people are interested in. But even if we didn't have the basic helping seniors of Brevard desire and the modus operandi, what Joe wants to do, and that's to make sure that seniors are taken care of, all of the other things wouldn't be nearly as important, I don't think, as successful. The fact is that seniors need to be taken care of. Joe has provided a way of taking care of it, and you're doing it, and Nancy is doing it, on the scene and talking on the phone in order to be able to create a venue where people can call and say, hey, Lisa, I need help with this. Can you help me? And the answer is always yes.
Yes.
Yes. And so we've got everybody working together, helping seniors, and to bring seniors the help that they, or I should say, we need, which makes everything tick. And so congratulations to everyone who made this thing work and made this so successful. Imagine having so many people. There were that huge parking lot and that huge auditorium with all of those cars, and it was oversubscribed. What a problem to have.
I was smiling as you were saying that, Dr. Sheldon, because every time that I go on and say, oh, there was 3,000 people there last year, one of our board members, Ashley Caswell, goes, Kerry, you make it sound like it's crowded. And she goes, you've been in there when there's 3,000 people in there. That place is so huge. It's not really crowded. The only time it feels like, well, there are 3,000 people is when Mark calls everybody over to the main stage because it's time to draw the winning number. Then, of course, everybody piles up there and wants to, get as close as they can to see if they're going to be the winner. And so, but I do have to say, Saturday, it really was pretty impressively crowded. And so it was just a great night all the way around. There's no way any of this would come off without the great help of Mark Pylock, Andrew Mackey, who runs the events over there, and Ed Diedick, who's the operations manager. And they have this fantastic team of volunteers. They literally just give their time whenever Mark does a charity event. And they've been so kind to us every year because Mark has allowed us to come back every single year since he's had that museum open. And it really has become part of the whole thing. We always say, when we say get your Helping Seniors car raffle ticket, you say you get three things. You're going to help keep our little charity doing its work. And I guess it's not necessarily as little as it used to be, with Nancy taking 5,400 calls last year alone. senior information helpline. But I also say, well, it's fun because somebody goes home in a new car, but also you get this experience of just checking out Mark's amazing collection of cars. In fact, we posted some of the pictures there on the Facebook page, and it really is just an amazing site. And so the great news is that Mark has already confirmed that we will be back there next year, and we're actually all going to sit down and have a meeting because I don't know if we're going to stretch the hours or how we're going to do this, but now that we understand that we're looking at crowds of this size, we will make some changes and make it a little bit better for everybody who's out there. But what a blessing just to see all those people and hear so many nice comments about how much they enjoyed the evening.
Yeah, and that's good. And the bottom line is that we're going to be able to do more for seniors as a result of the support that we've received. So everybody benefits from this, and everybody had a good time.
Boy,
so,
you said that so well, because, we were talking about needs that we have in our organization as we're handling and interacting with more seniors and their families. We really do need to bring on a little bit more help. We already asked a lady who serves on our board of directors if she could help Nancy one day a week. So Karen Warnland, whose company is called Emerald Care Management, occasionally when you call our senior information helpline, and I'll give you that number, by the way, so grab a pencil, I'll give you that number. It's a good number to have handy for a lot of different reasons, but it's 321-473-7770. So already, just because the volume of the calls, Dr. Sheldon, we've asked Karen if she could help one day a week with us on the telephones. And what we keep seeing is that the more people know that we're here in the community and that we're a resource, then, of course, that drives more phone calls. And we discovered something last year, Dr. Sheldon, when we went through our statistics, and I mentioned about the 5,400 phone calls. A lot of people say, well, does that make you like a referral number? You just, they know maybe like 211 is a good resource in our community. So they say, is it like what you guys do, like 211 for seniors? And we say, no, if it was that simple, we'd really be in great shape. We discovered it actually takes 7.2 calls on average to manage, I guess what you would call it, a need that comes into the line. Because usually, there's the call that comes in, then Nancy or Karen ends up doing some research. There's another call back. There's a call to check to see if that helped. And then maybe some additional resources or additional directions to go in. So it really takes a lot of time to do this. But I'm always amazed at the small organization we are, how effective we can be at really helping seniors. And, Dr. Sheldon, this, you're an expert in the field of periodontistry. You train other dentists and periodontists on how to run their practices and everything. But it's kind of the same thing. It's like, this may be the first time a family runs up against a particular senior thing, but because of Nancy's expertise, Karen's expertise, and the fact that they know who to call, to Joe's expertise, we know usually where to go to try to make something positive happen almost in any case that we've been thrown. And we've been thrown a lot of cases, Dr. Sheldon.
Well, the fact also is that we have a level of expertise in Brevard County that people probably don't realize. The number of people here who are known elsewhere, number of people here who are willing to help. There are a lot of people who move to Brevard County, and I'm talking now as a professional, because they don't want to, or I'll say I don't want to live in a city where, maybe that's where I should be. In fact, there's some people around here who think I should be in a city. They don't want me here at all. But that's, but there are opportunities here because people, and I'm talking about professionals, and that includes business people, choose to come here because they like living in Brevard County. And so there are sometimes when you say, I need to go to a major health center, and frankly, you do. And the reason you go to a major health center is because you want to see a doctor, and I'm talking in medicine and dentistry now. You want to see a doctor who has a lot of experience in seeing strange cases, because the strange case is a routine case for a person who's seeing strange cases all the time. So there's reasons to go to that that major health center. But we've got a number of people here in Brevard County who would qualify to be in major health centers. So it is a great opportunity. And that's, I shouldn't even say even, the fact that Nancy is the one who's answering the phone. And Nancy has worked with seniors as a nurse for her entire life, running a big organization. That just is testimony to what we have here, right here in Brevard County. And the person answering your phone call is not a secretary. It's somebody who's been working with seniors like you, like us, like me. And by the way, I started with helping seniors in Brevard before I was a senior. But anyway, has been working with seniors for a long time. So this is a resource, and Nancy's a resource. Wow.
No.
It's fantastic what Joe put together, and Joe put all of us together, didn't he?
Yeah, yes, he did. Joe is really amazing. He works every day, as you know, in this. In fact, I was literally on the phone with him 2 minutes before we were on airtime. We're in the middle of submitting a grant to actually ask for support for what we do with the Senior Info Helpline. And I guess there's a deadline tomorrow. So, that's dedication. Joe is 89. He's going to be 90 in December. And yet every single day he wakes up thinking about how can we do more that is helping seniors. And that's what I love about what we're going to talk about on today's radio topic. When we were going back and forth, said, what do you want to talk about today on the radio? And the answer was, let's talk about early detection and early cure. And then I started to read some notes that you sent over, and I thought, how interesting is that? Because we're always taught that that's what we're supposed to do. And it sounds like it may not be always as cut and dried as just what, the statement would sound like. Why is that?
Well, understand I've been public with some of this stuff for quite some time, and that goes back to the time when I had a TV show many years ago. And that was, all right, listen, you're seeing a guy like me, or at least when I was doing the performing. Now I just do the diagnosing. When I was doing the performing, you'll go see a guy like me because I'm supposedly good at fixing things. So you see Lee Sheldon, or you see Michelle Furtado, or you see Matthew Sheldon, and they're good at fixing things, and therefore I want to see a great fixer. And that's fine. But what sometimes is lost in that entire answer is we're waiting way too long as patients, as people, to do things right in order to be able to do things wrong in order to be able to have to be fixed. Am I making sense? In other words, we're doing a bunch of crummy things to ourselves and knowing that there's going to be someone down the line who's going to fix it. And the answer is we can't fix it nearly as well as you can prevent it.
That's an interesting take on the whole thing.
Yeah, the early diagnosis, early cure, that comes from cancer diagnosis, and frankly, that's not as well proven as we think. That's a PR message, and it's not, as I said, it's not as well proven as people would like you to believe. But the fact is that if we do good things for ourselves, maybe we've got a smaller chance of getting cancer, and that's not just a maybe; that's an is. That, in fact, the things that we're doing, the things that we're ignoring, the things that we're saying I can get away with, the things I'm saying, oh, it tastes good, or I feel good when I do it, or whatever that is, does have a consequence down the line. And if we were just able to get a little bit straighter in our lifestyle, in the way we live our lifestyle, the opportunities for needing doctors and needing fancy doctors and needing fancy cures, we may not have to take advantage of those opportunities nearly as often. I can tell you something in my own life, and I'm fairly astute. I'm fairly well read in both dentistry and in medicine, and there is something that was going on, and I'm not sure it's gone, but I think it may be. And that is that I was on a conventional diet for many, 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 many years. Now, some people know me in the early years, and I was a vegetarian for about 11 years. So understand that I've gone both ways. I stopped being a vegetarian probably 20 some odd years ago. And I said, good, I miss meat, I miss fish, I miss this. I'm gonna start doing it. And so I gradually went back, and people said, well, did you feel bad as a result? And the answer was, no, I didn't. I felt fine. So here I am, a vegetarian. I'm trying to really, really be good as a vegetarian. No, and by the way, you can be a vegetarian and eat sugar and cookies. That's vegetarian. That's not the vegetarian we're talking about. You eat sugar and cookies. Then the heck with announcing you're a vegetarian. It means you're going to be, you're going to be overweight. You're going to be just as prone to disease as any meat eater would be. So we're talking about being clean in doing that. So I went back to eating meat, and I ate steaks, and I ate this, and I ate that, and I was eating sugar too. And the answer was, did you feel any worse? And the answer was no. But something happened, and I didn't realize it was happening. About 12, 13 years ago, it was actually more than that, probably closer to 15 years ago, I started running short of breath, and I couldn't do much except to use an asthma inhaler. So I was using a steroid inhaler. I went to the doctor. The doctor said, all right, use this. And I went to another doctor, and the doctor said, based on your blood test, you shouldn't need this. But that's what I did. And so I was doing a spray, and the spray would be every day or every other day or something like that. And that was going on with short breaks of maybe a few days when allergy season wasn't nearly as bad. And so I said, all right, allergy season isn't as bad. Okay, so maybe I'm in Brevard County and the allergies are bad, and that's why I need it. And because I've been an allergic person anyway, you know what the sign says in front of my door, right? Mm-hmm. Remember that, Gary?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it says no dogs.
Really allergic to dogs, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and I am. So, I read Dr. Joel Fuhrman's book. It's called Eat to Live, Fuhrman. And Dr. Joel Furtado essentially got me right back into becoming. Now, by the way, he doesn't require vegan, but that's the ultimate goal. And he finds methods of you're eating some meat, but making sure you're using meat as flavoring, not as the main thing. And I did that about 5 months ago. So what's this? This is October. So we're talking about June. So I started doing it in June, and fine. I'm getting recipes. And by the way, the recipes are a heck of a lot better now than they were when I was first a vegetarian years ago. Eat cardboard and be happy with it. And now the recipes are really, really good. Even bought, Rebecca, my hygienist, bought me an Instant Pot, and I'm playing with that. So, I mean, there's some neat things. I like to cook. About 6 weeks ago, I didn't need Symbicort anymore.
Wow.
Now, so the question was, when you went from vegetarian to eating meat, did you feel bad? The answer was no, but is it a coincidence that I started using Symbicort during that time? And the answer is no, it's not a coincidence, because now I am, we went on a cruise over the weekend. I had to use Symbicort, by the way. So I don't have a complete cure yet, but now it's 6 weeks really with no need for Symbicort other than when I take a cruise. And I was a good boy on the cruise too. So, I mean, there's still some environmental factors. I went over Rebecca's house during this time, about 3 weeks ago. I went over Rebecca's house. I had never gone to Rebecca's house. You know why? Because Rebecca has always had dogs.
Hey, Dr. Sheldon.
Yeah,
we're gonna catch the rest of this story on the second half of Helping Seniors Radio right after this. We'll be right back.
Hey, that music means it's time to get back to the second half of Helping Seniors of Brevard, and let's do just that. Here's your host and Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard, Kerry Fink.
Well, thank you, John Harper, and welcome back to the second half of the Helping Seniors radio show. It's always a pleasure to gather together on the radio every Wednesday, 12 noon to 1 p.m. on 90.3 WEJF FM. And welcome back if you're listening online, WEJF.net, and if you're continuing on the podcast. And if you were with us before mid-show break, we were in the middle of an exciting story that Dr. Lee Sheldon was talking about. Our topic today is early detection, early cure. And so our guest is longtime friend of Helping Seniors, Dr. Lee Sheldon with Solid Bite Dental, Dr. Sheldon and Furtado, right there on Sarno Road. They've been a fixture there for years and years. But we were hearing a story about, and maybe before I jump us back into the story, Dr. Sheldon, I like something that you had put in the notes. You said, a lot of times we're so busy looking for a cure where we should be focused on prevention. And you said, you had this line in a note you sent to me. You said, how about periodontal disease? The same things hold. You take care of your teeth and I'm out of business. And I thought that's an interesting way, because I think the story that you began to tell just before we got there in connection with your dental hygienist, Rebecca, and you were starting to explain like how you've been through different things that have really helped you basically prevent rather than have to worry about the early cure or early detection or things like that.
Yeah, so you're right. So we proved it. By the way, the title is not early detection, early cure. The title is early detection, early cure.
Oh, with a question mark. That's right. Yeah, that some things don't come across as well. If that was in print, everybody would get that. And I should have brought that point up.
But anyway, the bottom line is, I went to Rebecca's house. My throat started to fill up in an hour. So I was able to sit in her house for an hour. Then my throat filled up with mucus. That usually meant in the past that I'd be down for at least 24 hours. About 48 hours, it cleared up in the car in 5 minutes. So why can I say for a fact that it's made a difference? No, but it's only an indicator. I'll tell you in a year whether in fact how much of a difference it's made. But it's only an indicator of the sentence that you quoted here. When you talked about, you take care of your teeth, I'm out of business. You don't eat sugar, I'm out of business. So essentially, what we're doing is, depending on, why didn't my dentist, we did that show a couple of months ago. Why didn't my dentist discover that? Why did my dentist find that? And the real answer is, why are you screwing yourself up? Why are you making yourself unhealthy? And what can you do? And I'm not saying you can cure everything. And it doesn't mean that you don't go to your doctors and do biopsies and do your checkups and that type of thing, and go to dentists and do the checkups. But understand that the best treatment is to treat yourself well. And if you treat yourself well, you don't need us nearly as often. Now, Exactly. That is a tough pill to swallow, particularly when we're in the business of selling healthcare services. I don't care what field you're in, whether you're in dermatology, dentistry, whatever it is, you're selling healthcare services. And so if you're selling healthcare services, that's what we're geared to. That's my business, is to sell healthcare services. I'm there to fix things, and we can fix things really, really well. But don't just depend on us to fix things. And with the resources that are available to us right now, there's so many resources. Just going to the internet for nothing, and you can do a lot of. You can read a couple of books, and all of a sudden you've got some information that you can work with in order to be able to be less reliant on the service that we do.
I have this conversation a lot of times with Bill Johnson, who's a board certified elder law attorney, and Bill, his law firm, William A. Johnson, but he's so generous with his time. He comes on the air with us once a month. He's always writing articles just like you do to help us in the Helping Seniors news that we publish in Senior Scene magazine. And I kind of joke with him. I said, Bill, you're so generous with your time. You'll do these seminars and tell people, let's get your paperwork in order. These are documents you should have in case anything were to go wrong. And I said, but you really, the bulk of your practice is helping people who did not do their paperwork, or maybe they thought they did their paperwork, did it wrong. And I said, so to be honest, you're really out promoting kind of prevention, if you will. And yet, if everybody followed that, your practice would be, not nearly as needed as it is because people don't plan. And I was thinking about that in connection to what you were just saying, Dr. Sheldon, because it's the same thing. I think when we talk about mouth health, I guess your point is if we would look at preventing tooth decay and periodontal disease, it really would cut down. So, and yet, ironically, because you, like Bill, are really concerned for the people that you run into and you want the best for them, you're always trying to get out in front of them. And it sounds like you may be sometimes nagging or even, but the very fact that you're so focused on trying to help people prevent problems is really kind of a testimony to the work that you do.
Yeah, I think nagging is probably a good description of me. I think you really nailed it there, Kerry. Yeah, you're right. I mean, in one sense, I know it's never going to happen, so I know I'm always going to have plenty of work. And I'm proud of the fact that Matthew and Michelle have taken over the practice, and they're doing things that I only dreamed of. I mean, it's great, and that's all repair work. I mean, it's putting mouths back together, and I'm proud of that. The legacy that at least I helped to create continues. So that's good. But talented people are going to find ways of making a living, whether they do it in what they're doing now or not. I mean, Bill's a smart guy. I've known Bill for years. Bill knows what the heck he's doing. He's looking at his clients first. He's looking at well-being first. And you want somebody like that, whether you own a radio station, whether you're in roof repair, it doesn't make any difference. You want somebody who's looking out for the client, first. You want that. And then your hope and your expectation is that when you need the repairs, you can get those repairs done. We unfortunately, and it goes back to many shows that you and I have done together, Kerry, we unfortunately are bombarded with commercials that misrepresent what we should be doing for our health, or they encourage us to do things that aren't healthy for us at all. And that's, you have to be a smart enough consumer to know, in fact, when you're being snowed, and we're being snowed an awful lot in commercial messages and PR and public service announcements and, or whatever that is. You really got to be able to find credible things to read in order to be able to understand what you need to do in order to be able to help yourself, at least in the dental arena. And I can expand that into the healthcare arena because I've been, working with physicians and have been interviewing physicians for my entire career.
Yeah, and that's the point. We always laugh whenever I use this thing. Well, I found this on the internet, and because it's on the internet, it absolutely must be true because that's a rule. And so, of course, we know that's the biggest nonsense that's out there. But I was really thinking, Dr. Sheldon, there's a couple of things. Joe has always talked about making an aging plan, so he's always been big on being proactive and getting ahead of this. So to kind of like tune it into our topic of today, early detection, early cure with a question mark. I think Joe's point about an aging plan is, again, to the extent possible about prevention, or worst case, if you're running into things, you still have a plan. We have morphed that somewhat humorously into let's help you get your ducks in a row. But the corollary that we keep coming up with that is we say, really don't try this on your own, because if you commit to making an aging plan, or if you commit to saying, I want to do these things better and not run into these problems, there is great help available to you. And I'm not talking about where on a good day on the internet, you're guessing as is this credible advice or not, but there's really so much expertise right here locally, 100% local in Brevard County. Just as you were saying at the outset of the show, you said it's incredible the number of practitioners who probably could be, in some big city and with a big name and all that, but they choose to be right here in Brevard County, but have everything technically. I mean, I tease you about it, but you're the guy I always view as like having really kind of developed and perfected the art of implants. We've jokingly called you either the father or the grandfather. I don't know if you appreciate being called the grandfather of dental implants. But I mean, you've done so much of this all along the way. So when we come back to all these questions, it makes sense to listen to the people who really know about these areas, like what you're talking about, having a healthy mouth, which we've talked about so many times, has to do with having everything else be healthy too.
It's true. And if you talk about dental implants, we've talked about this in the past. If you do the exact same things that guide you to the point where you lost your teeth and needed dental implants, and you don't change your lifestyle, guess what's going to happen to the dental implant?
Same thing.
Become infected too.
all I'm doing, I haven't done it in years, but all Michelle is doing and Matthew is doing, we're putting a screw into a body part, and we want that body part to accept that screw. Well, if the body part is compromised with the things that we do to it, so is the interface between the screw and the bone. And so we're going to have problems with the dental implant. So, we can do an awful lot to repair, but boy, there's an awful lot more that you can do. And I wouldn't say go to the internet for anything. It may be that if you're looking for expertise, you have to look at who the expert is. The reason I talked about Eat to Live, which is the book that I read, and Dr. Joel Fuhrman, is because he's a physician, he's an MD, he's been doing this for a long time, he has a track record, and he quotes science and shows how you can prevent some of the diseases. And then he has a track record, and he can talk about his patients and the patients that he's seen and how they reverse the course of their disease by adopting a healthy lifestyle. When I read the book, I didn't expect to reverse the course of my bronchitis, but at least on the short term, over the past few weeks, I have. We'll see. It's the longest I've been without an inhaler, so we'll see whether that occurs. But whether we're talking about flossing teeth and not eating sugar and getting plaque off your teeth once a day, boy, that's an easy way, simple way of avoiding major dental expense.
And so really here again, kind of like in our little analogy of a few minutes ago, it's really neat how your focus is trying to get word out to people and say, if we can get you to do your part of this thing, then it's, my goodness, at the end of the day, it's, as the consumer, it saves you money, it saves you time, it saves you pain, it saves you aggravation. Dr. Sheldon, it must be sometimes very frustrating for you. You tell us the right things we're supposed to do, and then we don't listen. So I guess that probably happens to every medical professional all the time. But you never stop shouting from the ramparts about that.
If I stop shouting, I'm dead, man. That's my reputation out here. I deserve it. There are. I've been very fortunate in my career here. Who knew what Brevard County would mean? What it would mean to me? What it would mean to my family? I mean, it's just been a fabulous place to be. And helping seniors Brevard is one of those organizations that I'm very proud to have been associated with and to work with. But all of us have a purpose, and that purpose is to serve others in whatever way we can. And that goes much beyond the pocketbook and the things that we do in order to be able to make a living. So you're doing it, Kerry, Jim, you're doing it, John, you're doing it. We're all doing it in our way in order to be able to provide a better answer for more people. And particularly when in this regard, because good dentistry is expensive. And if we can avoid some of this and take care of ourselves better so you can spend your resources in a better way or in a different way, well, that's great. But that does mean instead of spending money on dentistry, you don't buy cheap foods that are full of sugar and processed stuff and say, I'm getting it, because you're not getting it. You're just going to, if you're going to save money on dentistry, good. Spend it on good stuff and make sure you're getting good stuff and you're eating good stuff, in order to be able to make sure that you're breathing good stuff and wearing good stuff, whatever it is, in order to be able to make sure that you have every shot to survive or do well without people like me.
It's such a funny approach. I remember the first time you suggested we do a TV show called "Are Too Many Teeth Being Extracted?" I thought that's an odd title for somebody whose business is to help, well, not necessarily help people get teeth out, but we've even talked about, I think we did a show called "Too Many Teeth Implants Being Done." And your focus,
too many extractions, too many implants. I've talked about it all. You're right.
No, but I was thinking about how important that is, because this is really back to the point when we said early detection, early cure, ? What we're really, I think the message that we want folks to gain and understand is like, listen, you really are in the driver's seat in a lot of cases. You can call a lot of these shots yourself if you'll just follow the good advice, right?
You're right. I mean, catch it earlier in the timeline. By the time you reach me, I'm not going to say it's too late because we can help you. But by the time you reach me, you've done a whole lot of bad things in order to be able to need me. So do some good things. You don't need me.
Yeah, no, and we've talked about this before because, like you see a TV commercial and they say, oh, these people, they can all, fix your mouth and, they'll put in dental implants and all that. But they don't really go into the fact that, if I thought about that analogy when you were talking about we put a screw in your mouth and then we attach the dental, the implant to it. I was thinking it's kind of like, I guess if you had a car, right, and it was rusted out and you're trying to attach something to it, it might work for a few minutes, but it's not going to really be a long-term fix, right? I mean, I think that's your point.
I can't tell you, Kerry, the number of my patients, because as you know, we do a lot of dental implants and a lot of full mouth extractions and dental implants the same day and all that type of thing. And one of the requirements we have is that you stop smoking 2 weeks before the procedure and 4 weeks after the procedure.
Wow.
I can't tell how many people have stopped smoking as a result of getting dental implants.
You probably saved their life.
If they can do it for 6 weeks, I hope so. You're right. If they can do it for 6 weeks, they say, well, if I do it for 6 weeks, I can do it for a lot longer than that. And they do. So it's neat. There are a lot of things that we can do, and unfortunately, some of us feel that we're unqualified to read something and follow somebody's advice. And the answer is there is a lot of good advice out there. You may have to buy a book. You might have to go to Amazon and plug down $15 for Kindle or $25 for a paid version, whatever it is. But if you start looking, and I gave you the one, I'll give you a book to start. Which will give you some data and is easy to read, Eat to Live. You can get started on that road to be able to be doing better things for yourself, even if you don't intend on becoming a vegetarian. You don't have to do that. It gives you methods of doing it without going as far as I did. But read the data first, read the success stories first, read what a person has done, a doctor has done in order to be able to impact the lives of tens of thousands of people. And that could very well make a big difference in your life, not just dentally. It could be medically, overall health-wise as well.
Well, I was thinking as you were talking about, particularly as you were talking about these books and things like that, there are a couple of things that I want to mention before we get to the end of the show. Number one, you yourself have a very good book called The Ultimate Mouth Manual that is credible, and it is free, right? If you go to your website, right? Am I saying that right?
It's right. And I just had a periodontist ask me for a source of articles because he wanted to write articles for his local newspaper.
He said, here's
a PDF of the book. Look at it. But yeah, you call our office at 321-259-8000 and you can get a copy of the book, or we'll send you a PDF of the book. Absolutely, you can. I want you to know that. I want you to know what happens in the dental chair. I give away secrets that you wouldn't know otherwise. And it's all in 300, 500 word essays, which I put together into a book. So by all means, we can do that. The three of us have written the book. We've had some physicians help us with the book as well. And so there are some things that you can get out of that in order to be able to help yourself. And so just call 321-259-8000 or go to solidbite.com and you can download a copy of the book.
Right. And another thing, as we're kind of like trying to tie a bow around this conversation, is one of the things that really helps is having good information. And I know you guys have a great program called Solid Bite Gives Back, which actually helps us as a little charity. But let's set that part of it aside for 20 seconds. And let's talk about the benefit to the person who comes in and takes advantage of that, because what they're really going to get is a lot of information that might help in this whole prevention talk that we've been having.
Well, it's true, because if you donate $50 to helping seniors of Brevard, if you just bring in a check and write the check, or we'll come up with ways of using Zelle and Venmo soon, but write a check right now. Write a check, and you get the CT scan, which is worth $150, $200. You get the full mouth series of X-rays, which is worth the same thing. You get me, and I'm absolutely invaluable, as you know. So,
Absolutely.
And more importantly, you get my staff who knows what the heck they're doing, and it's a great dental experience. You have the opportunity of going through everything, soup to nuts, with the most complete dental examination you have, and by donating $50 to Helping Seniors of Brevard County. So we'd love to see you. We'd love for you to come in. We'd like to schmooze. And if you take a look at our Google reviews, you'll find out that people can actually have a good time in the dental office.
That sounds right. So again, if they wanted to reach you, they would. What's the number they would dial?
Call 321-259-8000.
So there's two good recommendations for you. At least I'm saying, I think, I would get that book and just learn more about what we've been talking about today on the radio. That costs you nothing. And then if you want to take that next step, here's a great way. You're supporting Helping Seniors, but you're also going to get some really invaluable information if you are serious about trying to do this prevention route. So with that, Dr. Lee Sheldon, I want to shift to gear because I just got information. We have just a minute or so left, and I wanted to share a little bit of information that just got from Chris Morris. He's the director of the Helping Seniors Travel Club. And you had mentioned earlier about being on a cruise. So I have your next cruise, Dr. Lee Sheldon. It is coming up. This is great. You got plenty of time to plan for it. This is happening on June 9th, 2024. June 9th, 2024. We're going to sail right out. This will be the 4th annual Helping Seniors Foundation Cruise, where literally MSC donates money back, and we're able to use that funds to help seniors with actually kind of hands-on project. We've helped people, we're so tiny, it's very difficult, but we've actually helped people directly with certain kinds of help. We have some help for very limited, and it has to do with geographies and things like that, but we have some limited help for for some rental folks, depending on where they are and things like that. And our goal is through these cruises is to build that fund up where we could help more and more people as we go along. So number one, it's a great value. We're going to be sailing on the MSC I get them confused. I think it's the Seashore. But we're going to sail out June 9th, right there from Port Canaveral. It's so much fun because you go sailing with local people. So these are people like right here in Brevard County. We were out on the ship in January, and it was so much fun. Everybody makes great friends, and they say, hey, let's have lunch next week when we get home. And meanwhile, we're being pampered on this great state-of-the-art cruise line and enjoying, MSC's private island. And then Chris does such a great job of how he puts this together because it's cheaper. It's a very, very inexpensive relative to what you get for it because Chris doesn't nickel and dime. He gives you a price, and it puts everything together, including that donation. So it's not like you get on the ship and people start hassling you and saying, you have to make another donation. It's not like that at all. But we thought, let's do it in the summertime. And now let's get families together. Let's get families. Let's get grandkids. Let's just have it. Let's take over the whole ship for Brevard County. I think it'll be a lot of fun, Dr. Sheldon.
Yeah, I think it will be too. MSC has great programs. We were just on the seaside. That's where we were.
Okay.
The weekend before last. So, yeah, it's a great ship, very modern ship.
Yes.
And it was. It'll be quite an experience.
So you'll hear.
We've done that 4 times before, so good.
So you'll hear. Yeah, you'll hear a little bit. You'll hear a little bit more as Chris gives me a little bit more details. But I at least want to get that kind of like save the date for your calendar. It's the week. It's a 7-night cruise, so it's the week of June 9th. And I was really pleased that he was able to get that date because. Really, what I'm hoping is this becomes a grandparents, grandkids kind of cruise. Because it's interesting. People say, well, do I have to be a senior to go on the Helping Seniors cruise? And the answer is no, you don't. We have all ages that come with us. But we thought, well, this is summer, school's out. Let's just get everybody on the boat and we'll just have a big Brevard County party on the MSC ship that whole week. And just it's just going to be a great time. And Chris and Betty are just marvelous because they're there on board with you. So if you run into anything or any kind of difficulty, you're not trying to figure out how to get to a payphone and call 1-800-HELP me. I'm stuck in Cozumel, or whatever. You actually have Chris right there on the ship and say, hey, what do I do about this? And he goes, I've been doing travel since dinosaurs roamed the earth. So this is a guy who really he knows what to do. If there's a challenge or something that comes up, he knows exactly who to go to and where to get it fixed. Dr. Sheldon, it's kind of right back to that. You got to work with experts, right?
You have to work with experts. There's sometimes it just isn't worth not working with experts. You're right.
Yep.
Kerry, it's great to talk with you. Talk again next month.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Thanks again for joining us for Helping Seniors Radio. We will see you next Wednesday. Have a great week until then. Thanks for listening in.